Yes. Regular meetings.
Oh, like I'm just checking.
To order, please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have any modifications, comments, questions?
A motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to delegations, Mr. Peterson.
No delegations this evening.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to the proposed consent agenda. It says the minutes from 9/22. Are we able to approve those if I wasn't here for that and Teddy's not here? Okay. So can we actually modify this and fold that to future business?
Yep.
Yep. Someone like to make a motion doing such?
I'll do that motion.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor of removing the minutes from the proposed consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, with that, well, now entertain a motion on the amended proposed consent agenda.
Motion to approve the amended proposed consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to public comments. Do you have any public comments this evening? Any electronic?
We do have an electronic.
Good.
And this comes to us from Heidi Rogers, sent via email. And see, Monday, October 6th, 5 p.m., school board meeting questions. On Friday, the sheriff's office department showed up at the schools. And who made the decision to not inform all staff and offices, especially since some of the kids were at lunch and or recess, people such as EAs and office staff should have been informed. Furthermore, if this precaution was taken around lunchtime, why were parents notified until almost 4 p.m.? You do realize that the majority of your classified staff are the ones that live and vote in Benton City. Speaking of voting, Benton City has one major community event each year, which is Benton City Days. I was there and never saw the superintendent one time. You'd think that he'd be there to try and get as much community support as possible for the levy. When is the board going to realize the superintendent is not invested in Kybee or the community as a whole? Thank you for your time. Heidi Rogers, P.O. Box 568.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to director's reports, we'll start with Mr. Castillo.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey.
As always, I always start with my favorite program of all, with ECAP. As you guys know, and I've reported, the state made some cuts, significant cuts in early learning this year. Fortunately, our program was not affected this year, so thank God for that. But some of the rules they kind of put in place is the biggest one that would affect programs funding is enrollment. So they indicated that within 45 days of the first day of school, they would consider taking back slots. So every slot equals money. We get funded by how many slots we have. Our deadline was the 22nd of October of this month. That I'm happy to report we're fully enrolled. The biggest thing is to be initially fully enrolled. After that, if kids leave or somebody withdraws, we have the timeline starts over again to fill those slots. But that initial full enrollment was key for all the programs, and we've met that deadline. So we're in good shape, and we've had a good start to our school year. Safety security, our CERT program. So in June, we had the team go through a range training that qualified us for the school year. So we all qualified and we're set for the school year. In August, we had our armed intruder gap training for new staff and also for bus drivers. This year, the bus driver training was pretty awesome. It was great. Justin developed a plan, a lesson, a training that's based on an actual event that happened in Toppenish. So he took us through some instruction, and then the bus drivers had the opportunity to each had a turn to drive around town and practice what Justin had taught them on how to respond to a weapon on a bus. So how to quickly respond, quickly and safely bring a bus to a stop and address the issue on the bus. And they all did a great job. I love their attitude. They're so positive, and they appreciate that we're going through this with them, because that's a tough environment. As it is when everything is going smoothly, it's a tough environment, but imagining that something go wrong would be a nightmare. So they did a great job, and they very much appreciated the time and the training. So that went very well. We continue to have a really good working relationship and collaboration with Benton County Sheriff's Office. They've invited us to an active shooter training that they're having in December. There's 4 days of training, so we'll see if maybe how many of us possibly could go on any given day. They invited us to either observe or even be actors in their training. So they've always been very open to have us join them, and we'll be inviting them here in the winter when we do our indoor airsoft scenario training. We'll also invite them in to be part of our training. So the more that we can get together and collaborate, the better. So, Heather's Pantry, very happy to report that I've secured an agreement with Northwest Harvest again this year. So they will be helping us support with food support for the school year for the elementary. So that's we've already had our first delivery last week on Monday. So every month they will bring us in a shipment of food that will help out with the elementary. Middle school pantry continues to be supported with that monetary donation that was made last year from Ag West. So they're being supported there. High school continues to be supported by local donors. So I work closely with them to make sure that they have what they need. Professional development, August went very well. We had our usual 4 days of professional development where teachers, each building could earn up to 24 clock hours during those 4 days. This school year, I'll be working closely with the principals on a monthly basis for the district directed PD Wednesdays, so that we can offer clock hours on those Wednesdays that are directed by the district. And then last Friday, on the 10th, our fall professional day, each building, including special ed, teachers were offered training that they could earn up to 6 clock hours on Friday. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Crago?
Good evening. I'll try to hit the bullet points I provided you on the report I handed you, but as far as an update with work orders and maintenance related activities around the district, again, within the last 90-day period, which again, that overlaps some of the data I provided before, just to see how it changes if there's a trend. About 607 work orders is what I totaled out, and 488 of those were completed within the 90-day period. So the backlog sitting as of today, about 119 to-dos that are sitting there across all the different categories of work. The trend I keep seeing with this data, and after we track it and try to identify where our pain points are with trying to fix things or maintain things, you'll see that, we'll close out 9 to 10 work orders, and for every 9 and 10 that come into the system, we'll close out about 7 or 8. So it seems like some weeks we get ahead, and then something will happen where we might be 2 or 3 behind. On a positive note, and what I hope to provide next report, because I think the data is getting more accurate, and I want to bring you actual accurate information, not in lieu in progress information, is that the ratio of reactive type repairs, reactive would be something breaks and it needs to be an immediate fix. This is a, there's water coming down the wall type of fix it type stuff. Those are becoming more under control. We're getting less and less reactive work orders and doing more preventative maintenance work orders. The goal in my mind, and this is a me goal, I'm sure it could be discussed, would be, it'd be nice to see if 3/4 of our work could be preventative and 1/4 of it could be more reactive. Right now, we're really close to 50-50, which I personally think is a huge accomplishment from where we began tracking this data. And I attribute that a lot of teamwork from the facility staff. They're letting us know when there's issues, and then we're not forgetting it's an issue and making sure we try to correct it. So I think that's a huge win. The type of work we're doing right now is preparing for cold weather. I'm happy to report in those work orders and maintenance type work, we've already serviced our boilers for the high school. We've already cleaned and maintained a lot of air handler, fan coil equipment that needs to operate pretty soon. So I'm happy to report that I am confident a lot of the equipment will work well, and we're catching things before it needs to be a critical item. As far as grounds work, we had some challenges over the last 90 days. We had some malfunctioning equipment. We had more irrigation type issues that became, I'm just going to say it required a lot more time than we would have hoped the full staff to take care of. That being said, we've been able to borrow some equipment that helped us catch up in some areas. We were also able to use other staff from other departments to try to assist catch up in some of those areas. So I'm hoping by end of the month, as we get closer to cold weather, we'll be caught up in more of those areas. Vandalism, unfortunately, still seeing some vandalism issues that maintenance has to deal with. I'd say the most recent would be vandalism in restrooms, just more partitions and stalls being bent and marked and torn apart. Again, the facilities have been really good at trying to let us know about those issues so we can try to correct them properly. As far as transportation goes, we only had one significant repair in the last 90 days where we did have a bus that had a faulty pulley and bearing go out on one of the belts. And I was really pleased. It was one of those opportunities I felt like we were able to act and put into motion the things we actually talk about doing. And our mechanic did what he was supposed to do, our dispatch did what they were supposed to do, bus driver did what they were supposed to do with calling in what happened, dispatch notified the appropriate people, bus driver gave us the proper location, put out all the proper safety equipment. And within 30-40 minutes, we had a bus swap. Students where they needed to go on route were not that late. And when I say not that late, maybe 15 minutes behind, which is pretty prompt. And the mechanic was able to fix the issue within a couple days. And so he was able to identify the issue. We were able to get the bus back. So that was a success. With winter months coming, in the morning, it's obviously darker. And so we've just made a discussion with the transportation office with bus drivers to keep reminding students and families that in the morning when we're doing morning pickups to have kids be aware of their surroundings and be aware where they need to be at those bus stops so that they are easily seen in a safe location and off the road from other vehicles on the bus. Bus drivers are doing a good job with communicating that with parents and students. And then another moment of praise that I would just like to share, and if anyone in the community is listening, would be just a thank you that our behaviors and incidents on the buses, I feel, have improved. We're getting a whole lot less incident reports from bus drivers. It seems like the general behavior on the bus so far this school year in a lot of ways has been better. And I personally feel from having different parents and guardians come in and have conversations that we're getting support from those parents and families. So I just want to say thank you for that, because it's a team effort between the families, the student, the staff, and our transportation staff. And so far it's been really positive.
Great. On the backlog, any that you consider significant safety issues, and I'm sure you prioritize those.
For sure, that's the name of, I was gonna say name of the game, maybe that's not the best way to put it, but. Of those backlog with budget constraints and things, it is prioritization. It's what's the most critical thing safety wise, what's the most critical thing to make sure we can operate safely and properly. So as of the moment, I would say. Anything that is an issue is either cautioned off or is towards the top of the list of being taken care of. Yeah,
I was just curious, and I go farm tractors and stuff and then follow from them, get the leading for what's the problem with the lawnmower?
that's a great question, and I know it's right in the line of sight, so I don't mind talking about that. So that mower, fortunately, and that's a thank you too, we were able to borrow that mower from another district. And we actually did some service on it as part of the exchange for using it, because they hadn't used it, it's a backup mower for them. And unfortunately, the main PTO drive broke at the U-joint. And so luckily that part's arrived today. And so I look forward to tomorrow morning installing that and probably getting it off the grass.
You
It's supposed to be nice for a couple of days.
It'll be great, yeah.
So,
But yeah, unfortunately, it's the way that mower operates. Without that piece, it's pretty hard to move it.
I know, it's just great, something easy to put on like that is so much better than a blown motor.
I would agree.
So much better.
For sure. It was working great before that happened. Any other questions I can answer? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez.
All right, so usually I have a report for you guys, but just so you know, it's a little shorter this time. It's mainly because we had no major projects coming over the summer. And my team, Kobe Chapman, he's our tier 1 technician. He's been hands-on with student laptops, so though they're not really a project, Jamar Chapman or Jamar Beecham, our tier 2 tech. He's handling pretty much everything physical, and it's amazing to see his growth over the years. So and then Amelia Rivas is our analyst, and she handles all our data. All that to say, our team is awesome right now, so I'm so happy. Big thing for us this year, though, Windows 11. We're going to be migrating everyone over. I don't know if you guys know this, but tomorrow is Windows 10's end of support. So I'll be working with John and Mona to figure out what that extended warranty looks like. But the good thing is about 70% of our devices we can migrate over. So it's just the process of getting them over. So, but with that, and just be aware, we have our firewall, our antivirus, things like that to keep it safe. So we've finished the middle school laptops for migrating to 11. We're in the process of migrating the teachers over. So yeah. On top of that, we have some network issues we're having with the DNS, which is a piece of equipment that, or a service that translates IP addresses to website names. They're having some issues, working through that right now. So I'm going to be doing some restructuring. So hopefully, wish me luck, make sure nothing breaks. And on top of that, we need to get some camera cleaning done right before winter hits. We want to make sure these get as clean as possible before they get super dirty. So, all right. And then the other big thing for us is our annual E-rate. Last year, unfortunately, we weren't able to complete our E-rate project for last year, just due to financial obligation, things like that. Good thing is we have another year of it. So this year we'll be doing much of the same. We'll be looking for network switches to kind of upgrade the whole system. We'll be looking at potentially getting some more access points, so get more wireless, because we do have a lot of devices and it's only going to get more and more. So I want to make sure we can handle those services. And then on top of that, I'm going to be requesting some CAT cable, which is the network cable, to clean up some of our jungles in our server rooms. I don't know if you guys ever see that. Please do not take a machete to it, because it looks like it needs it. On top of that, with all those items, we're going to be looking at license renewals for those things like that. The good thing is with E-rate, potentially we'll be looking at an 80% reduction in price for all these things, which is phenomenal for small towns like us. So, and on top of that, just looking ahead towards Christmas break, we're already looking at what we need to be doing in the labs. We're going to be doing some restructuring for some of the software for the monitoring, as well as the middle school. And then I'll be working with Mr. Craigo, hopefully to get some surplus. So we have a lot of old stuff. So any questions?
Did David, what are the early prospects for E-rate continuing
I
in the
was
future?
I was told we're good, and so it was one of those. We had a Zoom last Tuesday. It looks well, but I'm not sure if this is just our rep telling us that or not. So I will absolutely keep you abreast too, though, so, for sure. So.
All right, thank you.
you.
All right, Ms. Small.
You have my report, it's the yellow one. For special ed, we have, as of our October count, 193 students. And for each of the programs, I do list what our program count is, students that we're serving. And within all of the programs, special ed, multilingual, and migrant, we're about 7 to 10 students below than what we had last year. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to take build. So this time of the year for special ed, we're preparing for our federal count, which is November 1st. So all of our special ed students who have a current IEP and current evaluation, those students are put on this November count for the federal count, and that's how we get our federal funds. Each month, the first school day of each month, we do a monthly count, and that's for state funding. But the big count is the November 1 count because they use that to fund us for the next school year. For dual language, we've received a $15,000 grant to just help us continue to work in our dual language program. It's $10,000 less than what we've been receiving in the past. So we're focusing the use of that grant on supporting our two dual language teachers, the kinder teachers, with extra planning time and then with extra time for conferences. Because since they share 2 classrooms of students, they do their conferences together. So it's adds more time for them to work through all of those conferences. We'll also be using that funding for some dual language site visits that OSPI coordinates for us and GLAD training. One of the requirements for the grant is that we have a dual language advisory committee. And so that's made up of myself, the director, elementary principal, 1 dual language teacher, and then 3 parents who have students in the multilingual or dual language program. So we're getting that coordinated so we can have our first meeting for this school year, and then we plan probably a winter and a spring one. Our multilingual or bilingual program, we have about 345 students, and a lot of this is just repeat from the previous years on how students qualify for bilingual programs. But they're screened, and then that lets us know if they qualify or not. And then once they qualify, they take a state required test. It's called the WIDA every winter. And some students exit, some students stay on, and those are the students that we count for the bilingual program. Last year we had the test, we got the results in May, and we had 16 students that exited out of the program. Services has begun in all the programs, and the majority of our multilingual funds support the staff that we pay for to support those students in class. With the bilingual program, we're required to serve all students that qualify. With the migrant program, which is right below that, we are required to serve what we call our priority for service students, and they identify those students for us. But we do pay for quite at least 4 staff, mainly 1 paraeducator, and then we split fund 1 para at the middle and at the high school between migrant and bilingual. And those paras also support migrant students in class. So it's between 35 and 50 students at each building that we support with migrant funds. With migrant, we're also required to have a parent advisory council, a PAC. And that's always been pretty strong here in Kybe. We meet at least 3 times. We've been working with ESD 123. They coordinate a big regional PAC meeting. So our PAC, we have 3 PAC parents, and myself and the migrant recruiter and records clerk. We join the ESD with the regions that they support. So there's Findlay, there's Burbank, there's Richland, and Pasco and Kennewick as well. So we join them for those PAC meetings. They do give us time to hold our own just with our own district to talk about our specific program issues, but it's really nice for the parents to get together with other migrant parents from other districts. The first one that they're doing this year is they're doing a retreat on a Saturday. I think it's the 15th. Yeah, November 15th. So that will be a full day PAC retreat for our PAC parents at ESD 123. And then there at the end, family engagement. We've coordinated family engagement events for the year. I have one, need to finalize the date with the library because we want to do Love for Reading family engagement at our community library so we can get our students and families connected with the resources that are there. And once I get that confirmed, we'll be sending that out and putting it on our website. But for now, we have a senior parents event happening on the 22nd. That's for all senior parents, but our migrant support staff is going to be there so we can support our migrant families there as well. We need to work to have a college and career resource event. Elementary math and literacy. We're hosting one event December 10th at our elementary, and we're going to coordinate math activities with holiday activities at the elementary school. And then we have 2 community resource events planned. One is October 30th at the high school, and then we have one, we're going to have one, it should say 2026, April 22nd of 2026 in the spring. Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Very good.
Thank you to our directors. Moving on to new business, item 8A, middle school SIP. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. Included in your board packet, we have the 25-26 middle school improvement plan. And this has actually been complete for some time. Quite frankly, we just neglected to bring it for board approval so we can submit it to the state. The interesting thing, and I think really where you see some positive movement is we really have not attempted to get into the weeds, so to speak, with this year's school improvement plan. The middle school wants to really focus on a bigger picture, knowing that if they can align grading practices and expectations among all teaching staff, English, language arts, math, science, social emotional learning, that they can actually impact all of the subgroups where we're also looking at trying to raise our academics. So we call that focusing on tier 1. And so this year, as opposed to drilling down onto each of the subgroups, they're really saying, look, let's try and improve our school for all kids. Water lifts all boats. So by doing that, we're hoping to see not simply improvement in some of our targeted areas, but also just overall. I think it's the right move. And I think that the work that Mr. Davison has done with his staff to begin those means is really going to help us in the future. It will certainly be more than a 1-year fix, but they're starting in the right places. So there's obviously more detail in the plan itself that was included, but he would invite each and every one of you to stop by his office if you'd ever like more details on it. But in the meantime, we'd just like to ask for the approval from the board tonight. We'll get it submitted to the state, and then we can work on getting some updates throughout the year.
That motion.
I will second.
All right, all in favor of the approval for the middle school SIP?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to bilingual grant approval, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, and luckily we have Diane still here if there are any specific questions, and Diane did make reference to the bilingual grant a few times during her presentation. And this is one of those areas we're seeing a slight decrease in the number of qualifying students, but overall, this is one of our programs in dual language and support of our multilingual kids that really we have been on top of for quite some time, and this is a continuation of positive progress and inclusion of our dual language program that formally started this year again with kindergarten, but eventually will move all the way up and through the high schools. So just looking for an approval for this, and then Diane can go on with the next one.
All right,
I'll motion to approve the bilingual grant.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, let me update, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you one last time. I want to bring to the board's attention, you will see in your packet the typical levy breakdown and update that we review before we ever go out for a levy that's presented to us by Corey Plager from D.A. Davidson. And this was an update from the one that we actually received last February before we ran it the first time. There are two particular items that have changed that I want to bring the board's attention to. The first one, and I realize you don't have this necessarily in front of you, but the first one is on page 8. And it's a very important piece of information because moving from 2025 to the 2026 preliminary assessed value of the district. So when I say district, please use that broad umbrella again. We're not talking about individual property owners or anything. We're talking about the combined value of all the property within the district boundaries. So we saw an increase from 2025 to 2026, an increase in value of 11.8%, which even doing my English teacher math works out to about $170 million overall. The really important thing about that is that $58 million of that is brand new construction. And why that is so important is because just as if you've got a big pizza sitting in the middle of our board table, and there's 5 board members and each one takes a piece or pays for 1/5 of the pizza, you know that if we added more board members and you then divide it up the same way, your section is actually a little bit smaller. So the more new construction that you're seeing, you're actually spreading out that overall tax burden to a wider area. And we did have a question about, well, many of the homes that are being built, many of the new constructions, perhaps are still in the phase, they haven't been sold to their final owners yet. Well, we're still collecting those tax dollars from folks who permitted the new construction, and the builders themselves are technically the owners until it's sold. So we're seeing a positive tax break because of the amount of new construction. The $58 million is the highest it's been since I've been here 8 years. We had one back in 2022 that was $53 million, but this one even beat that one. So a significant portion of our increased property value is in new construction, which is a great thing for the community. The other, oh, yes, sir.
Just a quick question that pertains to in the area. Have we looked at the increase in students and what that's going to require in personnel?
We're assuming, when we have new constructions, like the one across from the high school, that once it is complete, and then once it is fully, once everyone who has moved in, we anticipate 1.5 students to the district for each home. If that math works out that the city has been using for its estimates, that would equate to 250 to 300 new students for the district once all of those are built. Now, we have 17 homes that are currently standing over there, and of those, I think that 14 of them are still available for sale. So we know that we haven't seen yet the move into the area that will happen, because quite frankly, we have more homes for sale here than we do in the Tri-Cities almost as a whole. When you look at 200 new homes being built here. So I think that you're going to see, by the time that this first phase is complete, I think we'll have a very good idea of those first 30 homes. What are the ramifications for student enrollment we see from those? Then we can hypothesize out from there about what the true impact will be. But that completion of that entire project may not occur for 3 or 4 more years before we see all 210 homes up.
Yeah, I was just taking a look at the homes that are built, and I just used an arbitrary number of 2 kids per house, which is pretty arbitrary. But if it came up to that, they're looking at somewhere around 32 new students right now.
Yeah. Yep. And as of right now, and I think I mentioned this at one of the prior board meetings, the homes that are occupied right now have not impacted us. I think at least one of those was already a current student here and simply moved locations within Benton City. So, but it's something we're definitely keeping an eye on. The second piece that I wanted to bring to your attention is on page 10, and that shows property value and school tax rate. It shows a historical all the way back to 2010, but the important thing here is last year for 2025, our collection rate was $1.29, even though we had voted in an increase, or excuse me, a rate of $1.50 per thousand. Because of the increase in property value, the individual property owner actually saw their rate decrease down to $1.29. Out of 295 school districts in the state of Washington, that ranked 241st. So we're almost as low as anybody out there as far as an actual rate. And when you consider the districts in our region, in 123, Patterson is the only one that has a lower per thousand rate. I believe they're at 79 cents. Either 70 or 79 cents per thousand in Patterson. And then one of the other school districts, Star, which is a small district north of Pasco, doesn't have a levy. So when you consider that those are the only 2 in the region lower than us, that puts us in pretty good company. So that's again something that should be very good to hear if you're a taxpayer in Benton City. And then finally, one of the things that was brand new to us when John, Mona, and I met with Mr. Plager is the fact that next year, following 2026, there will be another formula change for levy equalization. Now, levy equalization is that wonderful state program that takes from property-rich districts such as the Bellevues and Seattles and Spokanes and give some of the funding to then smaller property poor districts in order to equalize. Knowing that we simply don't have the property value to raise the same type of funding that those districts do. Following that re-equalization, there's the potential for an extra $300,000 during the 2027 fiscal year. So the last 2 years, we've received right at $500,000 in levy equalization from the state of Washington. And for 2026, again, it'll be about 500,000. But in 2027, assuming the levy passes, it would increase to $810,000. So that's a significant bump from the state that is not a burden to any local taxpayer. That is entirely from property-rich districts who can afford it, and it's simply reallocated to districts like ours. That's a pretty good impetus if you're, again, a local taxpayer, knowing that you're getting that bonus in levy equalization dollars already, and then the potential for it to increase by $300,000 is very significant. So those are the main updates. And again, the entire packet is in the board packet for you. But those are the three main points that were new information from last February that I wanted to pass along.
All right, thank you. Do we put that report on the website at all to share, or?
I was planning on doing that. I wanted to give it to the board first,
Great.
and then we'll have that out on our levy page.
Great. All right, with that, we'll move on to board comments.
Nothing for me this week.
Okay, then we'll move on to superintendent report. Mr. Peterson.
Very quickly, but I should have said it at the end of our public comment that we actually would be answering one of the portions of the questions from Ms. Rogers in this superintendent report, because it was asked by the board to do so. When we have a situation as arose last Friday where we have a non-specific threat to a school, and especially one that is brought to us, it is not reported by us. We have a very different situation that we have to deal with than, for instance, if we have an incident at a school where we are requesting the assistance of the sheriff's office. They would be responding to us. In this case, in the one that happened last week, the sheriff actually brought the report of a non-specific threat to the district. And whenever things like that happen, we are bound by the investigative process of the sheriff's department. So we are not the reporting party in that case, meaning we cannot do anything without the approval of the sheriff's office. And in the case as it happened last Friday, the sheriff was very clear. We were not going to inform anyone of the ongoing investigation until we could determine whether it was a viable threat, whether it was an actual threat, and in fact, at one point, whether or not it was actually a threat against a school in Benton City, as the initial report sent a number of sheriffs over to Richland, and then to the Richland Police Department and to Richland High School. So the entire incident that occurred on Friday was entirely precautionary on the part of an investigation that was taking place by the sheriff's department. And in the end, by the end of the day, they came to the conclusion that it was a non-viable threat, non-specific, meaning there was not any valid reason to give out this information, because it would either A, compromise the investigation, and by the end of the investigation, they didn't have enough information to say anything other than we preemptively tried to avoid a possible scenario that turned out to not be viable. So the main differences in any of these types of situations is, if we're a reporting party, we have the luxury of being then the determining group as to who gets notified and when. When we are a part of an investigation that is an ongoing investigation by the sheriff's department, we do not have that option. So wanted to differentiate those two items. I will make sure and get that explanation typed up and available to Josh so that we can get an answer to Miss Rogers about her concerns. That was absolutely a very valid question, and I think a lot of times when we have emergency situations that are emerging here, and we're the ones who are reporting it, we have a whole different set of expectations around communication than when it's being done to us, which was the case in this one. So, all right, any questions on the part of the board?
For me?
I was kind of curious, with it, and, did we find out how this all got started?
The report, as it came to me at the end of the day, was that there was an anonymous report taken at a Target in the Tri-Cities, I believe the one on Queensgate, from the night before. And by the next morning, it had made its way via security at Target to Richland PD, who ended up at Richland High School, who then contacted the sheriff's office because it could have been misconstrued. It was not Richland, it was actually Benton City. And at the end of the day, they couldn't actually show that anybody had actually said anything the night before. So,
All right,
very condensed version, but that was the gist.
All right, thank you for that update. Appreciate that. And with that, we'll move into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, section 1G, performance of the public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. So we will be adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
thank you.